Welcome back to Pueblo News. Today I'm here with Daniel and Karina.
Thanks for having us, Ana. My name is Daniel Diaz.
Yes, my name is Karina Hernandez.
So first off, I just want to check in with y'all. How are you feeling after your trip to DC?
It was very, very exciting. It was my first time flying over there to DC. It was a great opportunity, and I have a lot of experience there. Like each day was something different. I learned, and I like it because you can see the hunger of the people. Like they're fighting for their rights, and like even though we're different state, but different color, we all like united together fighting, and like I like it because we're all like helping each other, even though we're from different states, different places, different organizations, but we were there like united, fighting, and to show the Congress that we're not like separating. We're together, like as a group, as a people united, like fighting for our rights.
Yeah, and I would add, besides that, although it was really tiring because of the flights and having to be in a million places, and we're not used to like the big city being from the border, right? Still feeling rejuvenated, right? I know there was a lot of sadness after the parliamentarian came out with the news that we're literally traveling when all this was happening, right? With the news about not wanting to include a pathway to citizenship. But when we met with a lot of the groups there in that big action, we felt like rejuvenated. We felt like, wow, like we're part of something so big in this country. So we're excited to come back home and continue to work.
That's awesome. So next, I just want to ask y'all about the purpose of your trip to DC.
Yeah, I would say that our purpose to DC, more than anything, was to make sure that the voices of the border were included. There was a big, last Tuesday, there was a big march and rally for immigration reform, for the pathway, the reconciliation, a pathway to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants, but also to make sure that the voices of the border were included. Now, unfortunately, a lot of our people couldn't go because that are directly affected because we live on the border. People that are undocumented that live within this 100-mile radius can't travel to places like DC. There was a lot of undocumented folk that were there from like New York, from Michigan, that
North Carolina.
Farmers from North Carolina that you met from Georgia.
Yes.
And they were asking, where are your folks? Well, it's funny that you say that because they can't travel. So I had to make sure that when I spoke in behalf of hundreds of thousands of undocumented people that live in the Texas border, right? And then of course, at the same time, we're seeing images come in from Del Rio, I think on Monday and Tuesday.
Yes.
And so that also became part of the conversation to make sure that we voiced that concern. So yeah. You have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, our purpose was like to fight, like I said in the beginning, it was just to help the people and to talk about like for example, I'm a dreamer. So it was not only about the dreamers, not also but the farm workers, central workers, that they have the rights. We have our rights in not only because we're not from here, from America, but we also have like that voice. So the Congress can hear us that we're not alone. And just because one people doesn't talk, we have more. It was like more than 1,000 people that went there, like fighting. On Tuesday, we have that march, and you can see all the people like fighting and saying like their rights. It was something nice that I have never seen like that, and I got surprised because it was my first time. Also, we have march here, but like seeing over there like a lot of people, it was something amazing that I got surprised, and I was like, it got me more like, okay, I want to fight more, and I like it. It was something beautiful.
And I would say that we were joined by some allies, and a lot of times we knock on our members of Congress in South Texas because I really feel like they're failing them, but there's some good ones out there. We went up to the stage and we saw Congresswoman Alien Omar speak to us, give some really powerful words. I think we have a clip of that, of Alien Omar speaking.
Refuse to accept to let an unelected advisor to be the reason dreamers aren't protected.
And then we'll go to this.
We have to refuse for a single senator to go home without explaining to their constituents that the reason they didn't get pathway to citizenship is because they didn't stand up to an unelected advisory parliamentarian. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of people making promises they're not willing to keep and fight for. I am tired that every election cycle, politicians come into our neighborhoods and tell us they will deliver pathway to citizenship if we give them the majority, and then allow for excuse after excuse to get them off the hook. This is the end. We are no longer accepting any of their excuses.
A todos los inmigrantes, documentados o indocumentados en este país, nosotros los debemos amar.
And let me give particular thanks to the immigrant workers, frontline workers who risked their lives during COVID to save people's lives. Muchas gracias to all of you.
Y debe darle las gracias a todos los trabajadores, en particular a los inmigrantes, que han luchado y han arriesgado su vida en medio de esta pandemia.
Let me tell you of a man I met named Recto.
Yo me encontré con una persona que se llama Recto.
Recto is a home health care worker,
Trabaja en todo lo que es salud,
an undocumented immigrant.
indocumentado.
He, every day before COVID, would get on a bus in the Bronx and travel a few miles to take care of 3 elderly people.
Trabajaba antes de la pandemia, tomaba el bus para cuidar 3 personas mayores.
They would have not lived without his help.
Sin él sería imposible vivir.
When COVID came, the bus stopped running.
Cuando llegó el COVID, el bus paró.
Did Recto stop helping the people?
Mi pregunta es, ¿Recto paró de ayudar a la gente?
No. He paid for a taxi cab every day to go help those people, even though he was making not sub-minimum wage, but very low wages and could hardly afford it.
¿Saben qué hizo Recto? Todos los días pagaba un taxi, así ganara el mínimo para ir a ayudar a esas 3 personas que eran personas mayores de edad.
That we owe thanks to Recto, but we owe more than thanks
Le debemos las gracias a Recto, pero mucho más que las gracias.
but not only to him,
No solamente a él,
Mario,
a Mario
and to all of the undocumented, a path to citizenship.
y todos los indocumentados que tienen derecho a la ciudadanía.
So, what was the most impactful thing that you experienced during your trip to DC?
It was something beautiful, like I said, when we on the march, like we were marching on Tuesday, and like seeing all those people like fighting, and it got me grateful that like I'm not alone, you know. And one of the other thing also when we were like to the Capitol, even though the Capitol was closed, but we were recording and sending our video to the to the people like Vicente Gonzalez, and telling like our story, like we want for them to hear us. I'm from McAllen, and I was telling him like we have the right to be here. We have the right to fight for like our rights, not to be like treated like as a trash, because we're not. So on Tuesday, I see all those people like fighting and helping each other, and like fighting. That's one of the things that I say in my mind. It was like, I like this, and I will never forget that experience.
Yeah, and in that same march, last minute I was invited to speak at the march, which I was really, really nervous, right?
Yes.
And I had sort of my talking points on my phone, and there's 3 stops in that march, right? It was probably like 7,000 to 10,000 people.
Yeah.
I really don't know the exact amount, but it was probably one of the biggest marches I've ever been directly involved and participated in. And so the second stop was in front of the ICE headquarters. And when you get to the ICE headquarters, it's surrounded by security and ICE agents, like what I suppose were ICE agents, like protecting their building, right, from their view. And they're telling me to rush to the front because I'm one of the next speakers. So I run up there and I give about a 3 to 4 minute speech. And it was a really big moment for me because at first I've never spoken to a crowd that big. I've never spoken to that many. I've never spoken in an environment with that many ICE agents, literally like 100 feet from me at the same time, and with that many cameras, like so much at stake. So I was really nervous, but I felt that because I spoke more genuinely and more direct, and at the same time making sure that the voices of the border were included in that conversation, right? And explain specifically why border residents couldn't be in DC.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So, I mean, on the other hand, I do want to ask what type of obstacles or any setbacks that you guys experienced in DC.
Yeah, we got one story.
We got one story, a good story. It was something I got surprised seeing. We went to the
Senate building?
Senate building, and
Russell building,
yeah,
where the senators are at.
yes. So we have the right to be there. We had like security stuff and they write our names and everything. And then one of the lady, she saw us like really weird, like judging us, like like looking at us all weird. And like I felt like why, like because we're different colors doesn't mean you can see us like that. So she started asking a question, what were we there and other stuff, and like, well, we have our stuff, we have the stuff, our stuff that he let us let in, right? And then all of a sudden we start walking, and then she comes with, she went to the security and called us that we were there, like, and the security came and asking all questions. I was kind of scared because of like, oh, what about they put us in jail and other stuff. But then like, see, my heart was broken because seeing why they judge us like that, why they put us like, we're like, I don't know, like strangers, like, seems like you don't live here, like you don't, como se, I don't know how you say in English, that you don't belong here, you don't belong here. I'm like, but we do. And I'm like, we do. Then our team stand up like up firm, like, no, we're not gonna leave. We're not gonna leave. And we stay there, Yeah, they ask us questions, but they kick us off, but we were still fighting. We didn't give up. So.
Yeah, I was pretty upset. I just kind of had to hold myself, just because I knew that a lot of the ladies that were there were also immigrants and undocumented, and the police was being very aggressive. But I would say that total Karen moment. We were minding our own business, going to the next Senate office. We weren't even bothering the Oklahoma senator. We weren't even gonna go knock on the door. Lady comes out, starts questioning our presence there. Yes. Like, what are y'all doing here? And then we walk away, right? Like, okay, let's just get out of the way. And she just kept following us, right? Sort of like on us. And then she goes to security. And of course, security eventually pushes us out. Scary moment is that Areli, one of the organizers for the United Farm Workers, who was self-proclaimed leader of the group, because they were asking who's the leader of the group here. They started questioning her, talking very aggressively, asking for her social security number. Which is when things I think got scary, right? For a lot of the folks that were joining us who were doing like lobbying there. And essentially we got kicked out. Interesting, we were let in through security, the legal pathways, through security, by staff that works inside the Russell building, but we were also kicked out by other staff, which just kind of shows like the ugly political divide, the white supremacists that is very much alive in the Russell building, the building where Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and Mitch McConnell, but also like people like Bernie Sanders, Tim Kaine, other senators were in there. It was interesting, right? We saw Marco Rubio walking around and Tim Kaine, the vice presidential candidate, like 4 years ago. It was a trip, right? So being in that building like with a lot of power. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm sorry that y'all had that unfortunate experience. But I'm glad that y'all were able to like get through that, and that you guys stood your ground, and that you were able to get your voice heard regardless of that obstacle.
Yeah, for sure. I think that at the end of the day, what was really cool was that we were pretty strategic as a group. We had cameras in there with us. We had the Univision and Telemundo stations from DC, like the DC stations there capturing this. Me, at the end of the day, still got to knock on a few senators' doors to talk to the staff. The last one that we knocked on was Mitch McConnell. Everybody knows Mitch McConnell, and the Republican senatorial leader. Got to knock on his door, right? And I told the staff, is Senator McConnell here? Of course, he wasn't there, but we invited him to work in the fields for a day. That was a law being asked that day. Can the senator work in the field for a day to feel what it's like to actually work out in the sun, and maybe they could be a little closer to supporting us. Yeah.
So you ran into Congressman Vicente Gonzalez outside the Capitol. Just today, we got news that Representatives Gonzalez and Vela are listening to our demands and no longer will block the reconciliation package. What does this say about the power of our movement and the moment that we're in?
Yeah, and we can talk about it. We were out there, and speaking of obstacles a minute ago, it was very difficult to visit our members of Congress because of COVID restrictions when we were out there. But we made sure that we did everything possible to figure out where we're going to find these members of Congress. And because we're on the phone calls with them, they wanted to set up Zoom links and calls with staff. We're like, no, we want to talk to the congressman. We want to talk to Vela, Gonzalez, Cuellar. So we kind of like figured out entry points and exit points from the Capitol. And we ran into Gonzalez.
We were waiting outside. It was raining. The weather was really ugly. But we said we're not leaving. So we talked to him. So we waited. He was like more like than 2 hours. Kind of. We were outside. It was raining.
Doña Mari was with us. Old
farmer worker,
veteran farm worker member. That she was out there with us too, right?
Yes.
And we talked to Vicente. We talked to him about reconciliation. We had a very honest conversation. How did you feel about that conversation?
It was pretty good. That we spoke to him and telling him like, come on, like support us. We're from McAllen. You represent McAllen. So we're not gonna leave here until you decide, like that you're gonna support us. So practically, I think he did.
Yeah. Like, of course, like came out with the news this morning that he's supporting reconciliation. I mean, I was pretty firm with him, telling them that we're here representing our membership and a bunch of people from your district. You and Doña Mari living in this district, right? And then, of course, we weren't alone. There was a lot of people from across the country, from different states, for reconciliation, for pathway to citizenship. So I think that in general, Vicente Gonzalez and Filemon Vela and other members of Congress felt that presence around the Capitol the whole week, and where we were part of that, that really, really, really pushed and coordinated our members of Congress to make that commitment, at least for now, this morning, that they were going to support reconciliation. I was very direct with the congressman, and I was like, "What's up with reconciliation? Talk to me. How are you feeling?" Right? He was a little shaky, right? It wasn't like a very firm commitment then. But after a more full conversation and after everything that he's seen, I think he's feeling that it's the right thing to do, right? So we're happy that during that moment, he got to hear directly from constituents of his that within his district that were there to talk to him.
Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I'm Ana Sanchez.
I'm Daniel Diaz.
And I'm Karina Hernandez.
This is Pueblo News. See you next week.